Live. Late Show right there. My guest tonight is an author, the anchor of the Daily Report with John Dickerson, and was recently named co-anchor of the CBS Evening News. Please welcome back to the Late Show, Mr. John Dickerson. Okay, we love talking to John Dickerson here at The Late Show. You lay things out beautifully. You put things in historical context. You have said you believe that campaign coverage should be focused on the demands of the presidency and whether candidates have what it takes, like a job interview. What did tonight's debate add to what we know about the 2024 election?
Well, we're going to talk about a lot of things that happened in the debate, but just on this question of what did we learn about how they view and see the presidency, we learned Donald Trump basically sees the presidency as a thing where he can snap his fingers and make things happen. Wars will end.
Before I'm even president.
Right, exactly. So that's an unrealistic expectation for the presidency, which he proved in the presidency. You can't snap your fingers and have things happen. Every president learns this in the presidency. They think that it's going to be this job of extraordinary power, and they end up getting very frustrated.
Just to want the job, you have to feel like I'm the only one who could do this job.
Right, and then you get in it, and you learn right away that it is incredibly frustrating, because you have, in some realms, a lot of power. Foreign policy you do, but in domestic policy you don't. You have to listen to Congress. All presidents go through this learning curve. So we learned with him that he still promotes that fiction about the presidency. What I think was most on display, and this goes to what Kamala Harris was trying to do, was Donald Trump was the full Donald Trump. He got emotional at times. He went and talked about cats being eaten, which was very difficult to follow.
We'll get to that. We're going to dig into that, John.
But debates are performative. There's theater review, but they are, how do you behave under pressure? And that's obviously what the presidency is about. How do you behave under pressure? And he had some moments where he was kind of all over the place under the pressure of the debate.
She had her own performative moments tonight. I mean, she clearly had done her homework and had trained a lot for tonight's debate. One of the things that polls show that 28% of Americans wanted to know more about Kamala Harris going into this debate. What do you think they learned?
Well, just to your preparation point, we don't know whether the voters will pick up on this, but it is clear that she had a plan and she executed the plan. And the plan was to make Donald Trump look like the full Donald Trump. She baited him relentlessly, and he was incapable of not taking the bait.
Which is surprising. Not that he has control over himself, but as you've said before, that's usually
his job. Yeah, he's the one, we've talked about this before, he's very good at throwing out bait, and everybody takes the bait, and he ends up benefiting from that. In this case, she was using his strategy against him, and I think it had two possible downsides for him. One is that her argument was, we don't want to go back. You can say that, but as a political strategy, it's better if you can create the conditions and then point to it and say, we don't want to go back. Create that kind of intemperate response. And the second thing is, when he was talking about crowd sizes and eating cats, he wasn't talking about what he's going to do for regular people. I went and looked at the transcript again, and the only policies he really talked about for regular people were tariffs and deporting illegal immigrants, which isn't really what people are talking about at their kitchen table in terms of how it's going to affect their lives.
The vice president faced questions about Biden policies, that obviously that she was, she owns that to a certain extent. The vice president doesn't have a lot of power, but she's part of that administration. So she was questioned about the economy, Afghanistan, immigration. How did she do in terms of threading that needle of having to be her own person, but not throwing her old boss or her current boss under the bus?
By avoiding ever trying. You can't be a vice president under a president and say, I don't know, push away from him. You just can't do it. It's a waste of time. And she didn't much do that. So that was probably the smartest thing. And when
Trump kind of threw J.D. Vance under the bus, though.
When he was asked about whether he would veto a national abortion ban, which was, he had many positions on abortion, but even in the course of the debate, he was on the one hand saying it's a state issue, and so I'm not, leave it to the states. But then when he was asked if he would veto any national abortion ban, which if he was being consistent with what he had just said before, he would say, of course I'd veto a national abortion ban because it shouldn't be a national issue. It should be left to the states.
Right.
But he wouldn't say he would not issue a veto of a national abortion ban. And he said, well, that's okay if J.D. Vance has said that, but that's not.
We don't talk a lot.
Right, right.
Kinda.
Yeah.
The fact that he doesn't talk to J.D. Vance a lot made him very relatable. You just don't have to say
I'm
you don't
gonna-
have to say
no,
a word,
yes,
John
okay,
Dickerson.
thank you.
So,
Protect me from this.
did Kamala Harris, some have said that this is a stand-in. Standing up to Trump is like a stand-in for her standing up to other foreign leaders, or like the people that Trump likes, like your Putin, your Orbans, like that. Did she come across as strong, do you think?
Well, we'll have to see if voters do. I think you're right that traditionally in campaigns, and we should step back for a second and remind the context. Usually when we have debates, we know the candidates so well. It's in October. Everybody knows everything about these candidates. Kamala Harris is still not known by everyone. So that was what makes this debate different, and also makes it potentially different from previous debates in that there might actually be some movement in the polls. Leaving aside the Joe Biden debate, that was a special one-off.
Special is a lovely word, John. Thank you. Doing a lot of work in that sentence, the word special.
Now, so she was relentless in her prosecution of Donald Trump. I mean, she did not relent throughout the entire debate for what I think was a strategy, right? To rattle him and then say, look at this rattled person, we don't want to go back to that. And we'll see whether the voters like that or not. But she prosecuted it, as you said. She'd done her homework. And so to the extent that part of being president is knowing what your task is, doing the work that is required to achieve your task, and then under pressure performing your task as you set it out for you before, those are things you want in anybody who's trying to be in a job where you have to execute things. So in that respect, you can draw a line, it seems to me, between the behavior in the debate and the kinds of attributes and behaviors you want in a president.
We have to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more John Dickerson live following tonight's presidential